Hola clase. Today we're going to learn a new verb phrase called tener plus que plus infinitivo. We'll refer to it as tener que expressions. Before we look at our notes, tener que is how we express that something has to be done. Let's talk about some examples in English first. If I wanted to say I have to wash the dishes, I use tener que. If I want to say my brother has to do his homework, I use tener que. So these are expressions that are very familiar to us in English, and they are very simple to make in Spanish. Again, before you look at your notes, I want to just cover it very briefly, and then we'll go through and break it down. Again, this is how we express I have to do something or someone has to do something. So let's use I as the example. If I want to say I have to do something, it only makes sense to use the verb tener because that means to have. So we're going to conjugate tener, and then we're saying to do something, which is an infinitive. Okay, so we have tener plus que, which is part of the formula, just has to be there, plus an infinitive. And that's all we're doing. This is a lot like ir plus a plus infinitive, in that you just conjugate ir, then you add a, and then you just slap on an infinitive. So let's go through the notes. You should have just gotten these. They look like this: tener plus que plus infinitivo. So I'm going to walk through them with you, and if you would, just fill in the blanks as we go. Okay, so in Spanish, tener plus que plus the infinitive is used when referring to something that has to be done. Again, in Spanish, tener plus que plus the infinitive is used when referencing something that has to be done. When using tener que plus the infinitive, use the following steps. So we're going to break it down. There's 3 simple steps. First step, we're going to conjugate tener to agree with the subject. We're going to conjugate tener to agree with the subject. And then you have a verb box for the 6 forms of tener in the present tense. You know these. We've already reviewed tener this year as well. So, and we did that so that this would be easier for you. But really quickly, I'll say them with you. Yo tengo, tú tienes, él, ella, usted tiene, nosotros tenemos, vosotros tenéis, and ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen. Okay, so first step is to conjugate tener to agree with the subject. So our example sentence, I have to clean. We would conjugate tener in the yo form. So the beginning of our sentence is tengo. Step 2, add the word que, Q-U-E. Add the word que. And please note, this word does not literally translate. It just has to be there as part of the formula. So again, first step, conjugate tener to agree with the subject, yo tengo. Second step, add the word que, and it does not literally translate, it just has to be there. So in our sentence, I have to cook, no, I said I have to clean. I have to clean, yo tengo que. Step 3, add the infinitive. Add the infinitive. Please remember, the infinitive has an R on the end. Do not conjugate the infinitive. So we'll have a conjugated form of tener. Tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, tienen. The word que and the infinitive. So it'll end in AR, ER, or IR. And as we know from our lista dos, a couple of days ago, you learned to clean is limpiar. So our example sentence, I have to clean. Tengo que limpiar. Let's look at these couple of ejemplos at the bottom of your paper. The first one, I have to escape. Well, please pardon that that's already in Spanish. It says I have to escapar, so the infinitive is done for you. But we're going to write that in Spanish together. So I have would be tango. That's step 1. Step 2, add K. Step 3, the infinitive, which is already there. Tengo que escapar. I have to escape. Number 2, you have to run. So we're going to conjugate tener in the you form, which is the to form. Tienes. Step 2, add K. Step 3, the infinitive. To run is correr. So you have to run. Tienes que correr. Or tú tienes que correr. The third example, Paco has to leave. Make sure you put Paco in your sentence, because if not, we don't know who has to leave, because the third person singular is what we call ambiguous. You don't know who has to do something unless you include the subject. Same with the third person plural. So we're going to put Paco, and then we're going to conjugate tener to agree with Paco, which would be tiene. Paco tiene. Step 2, add K. Step 3, infinitive, which is to leave, in Espanol, salir. Paco tiene que salir. Paco has to leave. So to recap, very, very simple. 3 steps. Conjugate tener to agree with a subject, add K, and add the infinitive, which means it must end in AR, ER, or IR, depending on what kind of verb it is. These are super simple. Again, this is only used when you want to communicate that someone has to do something, so that something has to be done. Don't add K after every verb, only when it's something has to be done. Tener plus K plus infinitive. Muy fácil, very easy. So if you would now please flip over to the práctica. Part A, you're writing the sentences in English, so you're translating those back to English. Part B, you're translating them into Spanish. And if you notice, you get 2 fichas for Part B, translating them into Spanish. Make sure you do this practice. You have a quiz next week that will include this and your vocabulary. I will be at McDonald's this afternoon from 4 to 5, so if you need help with this or vocabulary or ear plus I or present progressive or anything that we're doing in class or Gustar or IOPs, please, please, please come see me. And if 4 o'clock doesn't work and you need to arrange something else, please let me know. Have a fabulous dia. Adios.